Welcome to Beyond Vows Veils, your luxury wedding experience. Our podcast, I feel, is a treasure trove of inspiration and insight for newly engaged couples. Join us as we have captivating stories, expert insight, and real wedding experiences that you can listen and learn from.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Beyond Vows and Veils. Thank you again for joining me each week to listen, learn, and discover more ways that you can make more informed decisions on your wedding planning journey. I'm your host, Brittany Ellis, and today we're diving into the world of luxury weddings at one of Orlando's most prestigious venues. I'm thrilled to be joined by Laura Hitzit-Clavette, the Director of Catering at the Four Seasons Orlando. Born and raised in the south of France and with a degree in hospitality management from Switzerland's prestigious EHL, one of the top hospitality programs in the world, Laura brings over 20 years of experience with Four Seasons properties across Boston, Hawaii, Miami, and now Orlando. With her international expertise matched with her dynamic energy, Laura has mastered the art of creating unforgettable celebrations. So today we're going to uncover the secrets behind making your wedding day extraordinary, explore what sets Four Seasons Orlando apart, and share insider tips to ensure your event is nothing short of spectacular. So whether you're dreaming of a grand affair or a more intimate gathering, this episode is packed with inspiration and guidance. All right. Thank you so much, Laura, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brittany. I'm really excited to be discussing weddings with you.
Absolutely. Me too. So Laura, you have obviously a very extensive career in hospitality. Can you share with us your journey of how you landed in your current role?
Yes, of course. I am a Four Seasons person through and through, I think is fair to say. I actually started back in the 90s with an internship at Four Seasons, and this is where I really fell in love with the events world. I had the opportunity to see some fabulous weddings, and I think that's when I decided this is what I want to do. So I did go to a hospitality school. I went to the École Hôtelière de Lausanne, which is a hospitality management school, and then got recruited from there to start at Four Seasons Boston. Mm-hmm. I worked in operations in the restaurant for a couple of years, and then moved into events. And then from there, I loved having a urban, experience, but I just wanted to learn more about different types of events and groups. So I moved to Hawaii. And I had the opportunity to work at our property on Maui for a couple of years, and then had a amazing opportunity to be part of the rebranding team for our Lanai properties. And that really opened, I think, my horizons to much larger scope events, because we would do buyouts, for incentive groups, large scale celebrations, which was wonderful. And then the opportunity came to come to Miami, which I'd never lived in Florida. Sounded really fun. Once I had a taste of warm weather, I said, okay, there's palm trees. I think I can do this. Yeah. And I spent about 7 years in Miami, got to learn a whole different aspects of celebrations, ethnic celebrations. And it was very diverse, really fun. I learned a lot, loved living there. Mm-hmm. And then I heard word that we were opening, a very large resort in Orlando, and that piqued my interest. And I really wanted to be part of the opening team. So that's when that opportunity came up. And that was 11 years ago. I was here, hard hat, on the construction side. It was amazing to see the building, being really coming to life, and being part of that opening team, and, hiring all the team members, and then, together coming up for the very first time with, menus, what are events going to look like, and how it has evolved over the years. And that's been 10 years.
I just can't believe that it's already been that much time, because right? I remember doing a hard hat tour with you, and that was the first time that I met with you and some of your team members. And I just remember your excitement even at the construction site, and I was like, I'm not seeing it, but I saw the renderings and everything. Yeah. Obviously turned out to be a fabulous property.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, the public areas were done before the event spaces, and there was one bathroom in particular in the public areas. I said, oh, "This looks fabulous. I have to take all potential clients." So I would take clients. I'm sure I took you to this. Listen. Look what the bathroom looks like, the tile work, it was just so upscale and fabulous looking. I said, if the powder room looks like this, can you imagine what the event space is going to be? And it didn't disappoint.
It did not disappoint at all. For audiences or listeners that are tuning in right now that are maybe not as familiar with the resort in Orlando, can you share with us maybe some highlights of what makes it such a unique property?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting because from a Four Seasons standpoint, we typically operate like mid-sized properties. Mm-hmm. So for us as a brand, this is a very large resort. We have 443 rooms. We have over 60,000 square feet of, dedicated event space between the indoor, outdoors. We have 6 different dining outlets. We have a private, golf course and sports club. I would say the facilities, the recreation facilities are truly a water park, with an adult only pool, a family pool, a lazy river, a splash pad, some water slides. So there's really a lot to offer to guests. And I think from a wedding standpoint, what our couples are truly attracted to is the fact that the resort is a destination in itself. I'm sure, as it's all about destination weddings, right? And the advantage is that this is a domestic destination that's very easy to get to and from. Mm-hmm. And what couples really, really love is the fact that when you arrive at the resort, it's all there. Yeah. It's all there. They never have to leave. As destination weddings are, typically multi-day. They need a lot of guest rooms, and then couples want to make sure, okay, we don't necessarily want to entertain guests, all the time, but between festivities, what are my guests going to do? Mm-hmm. And then when they discover the resort, they realize, oh my goodness, there's such, an array of possibilities of things to do, from just hanging out at the pool to having, a fabulous spa treatment, playing a game of racquetball. There's so much to do that they know that their guests are going to be taken care of. Mm-hmm. And then from an event standpoint, because we have, all those different restaurants as well as the dedicated event space, there are so many possibilities to be able to really explore and enjoy everything that the resort has to offer, regardless of whether it's, afternoon tea for the girls, after a spa. We can look at a restaurant for that, a welcome party, buying out a restaurant, mm-hmm. The farewell brunch that can take place in Kappa, which is our Michelin star restaurant, 17th floor, fabulous view, something the guests wouldn't have, otherwise experienced. Mm-hmm. And of course the more traditional, I would say, event spaces for, the ceremonies and reception. So there are really a lot of options, whether being traditional venues or, restaurant type, outdoor type venues for whatever, events that the couples might want to include for their celebration.
Yeah. I mean, I love that, Laura. I think that's such a great outline of the property. I mean, there's so much to discover there. And I think that the Four Seasons, when I first visited personally, when they first opened, I think that it was when like frosés became a thing. And like, it was like, I had never even heard of a frosé, but the first time I went to the Four Seasons, of course, they're ahead of the trends always. They already knew like, this is the new it drink. And so it was so fun. I experienced that for the first time, but it really is such a, I call it like an adult playground a little bit too. Mm-hmm. It's such a fun place to visit for families. If you're going with kids, they have like the kids only pool. They've got the adult only. So definitely if you're hosting a wedding there and you sort of have those layered in different types of families, it's a great property for that 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, which I get a lot of questions from our couples on, is just the value. So having a property at a luxury resort obviously has incredible advantages, especially for couples with grand visions. Like, is there anything in particular that you feel like the Four Seasons brand or even the Orlando property in general brings in terms of a lot of value for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, we look at the resort, as large as it may feel for us who are used to Four Seasons properties in general, for Orlando, in particular, and you know from your own experience here in town, the resort feels very intimate. The way that it is laid out with the event space, on one side, all the fun amenities on the other side, and yet it's all very close together.
Mm-hmm.
Any, wedding of size, especially when there's a grand vision, we can very easily buy out the event spaces, which is very attractive to a lot of couples and planners and decorators because, as when you start the wedding journey, there may not be this, very planned out vision of, okay, this is exactly what we're going to want to do throughout the wedding weekend. But just having the flexibility to look at different, event spaces, restaurants that you can have access to. And then I think it gives way to more creativity because you're not limited. Said, okay, we have everything at our disposal, how we're going to play with, and incorporate all of those different elements into the celebration. And also, thinking from that, luxury standpoint that you're mentioning, knowing that the spaces this is our playground. Mm-hmm. We are the only ones. All focus is going to be on that celebration and really make it very, special and exclusive just for that couple. That's something that, resonates really well with couples.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of value that comes from that. And also just adding from my own personal experience working at the property multiple times, I think that the commitment to service excellence has always definitely been there. Definitely, Laura, I mean, your team has always been in the forefront of like brainstorming with us on like how the flow of event could go. And like, in Florida, we always have to talk about inclement weather, but there's like so many options on how we're going to utilize the spaces and how guest transition is going to be done. Mm-hmm. I just feel like, your team does a really great job of understanding what is the couple's intention for the overall weekend and how can we essentially help to service and translate that to, the ultimate actual wedding day itself.
Yeah. It's all about making it, special for them based on their vision. We provide the backdrop, that's the starting point. And then how do we either build that vision together or how do we, translate that vision into the different, services and experiences that they're going to have. Yeah,
definitely. Mm-hmm. And I think a big part of that, or dreaming big, having those big visions, also comes from the culinary experience, which Four Seasons is definitely known for having excellence in that space. Can you walk us through? I mean, obviously, my audience tends to be more of the South Asian market, but I want to talk about all the availability that Four Seasons has to offer potential couples with their culinary experience.
Yeah, absolutely. This, this is the fun part. It's the fun part because we ask a lot of questions throughout the entire process because it is about, creating that customized experience that speaks to them, that is going to make their wedding really unique. Mm-hmm. And a great starting point is always asking, okay, what vibe do you want, for your wedding? Are you looking for something more formal? If you say, oh, I just want my guests to have fun, right? That already kind of tells us something. Mm-hmm. And as we learn their preferences, this is where I always say, we peel back, the onion little by little until we are certain that we truly understand what they're looking for. And then we collaborate, right, on ideas. Like, well, what do you think of that? Let me connect with my culinary team because we like to let the talent, right, decide, okay, yes, I understand what they're trying to do. What do you think of, ideas ABC? And then, bringing it back to the couple, see what they think. And this is how little by little we make what may seem like tiny decisions. And the next thing you know, you have a menu, right? You have a bar offering. So it's really a collaborative effort. Really understanding what the family is looking for, and really curating an experience that translates that vision that they have. And you also mentioned South Asian weddings. It's a little bit different, for that market, because guests want a Four Seasons experience, right? True and true. But there's also another imperative, which is to have that authentic cuisine, right? Regardless of the region where they're coming from. So we partner with a variety of different caterers, whether being local caterers, caterers from South Florida, from out of state, just to make sure that we can satisfy all those imperatives. And we would never want to ask a couple or a family to compromise, on what they're looking to have at their celebration. So of course they're going to have a Four Seasons wedding. And then on top of it, they're going to be able to, let their guests partake into the food that they really want to showcase at the wedding.
Yeah. I mean, that right there is a ton of value also offered, because for couples who are listening, if you are looking at hosting your wedding at a Four Seasons property or the Orlando one specifically, there's a lot of value built into the professionals that you work with. I mean, Laura's had over 20 years of experience at luxury properties and has seen probably very different types of menus and mix and match. And so even if you're hosting a fusion wedding where maybe one of the individuals is South Asian and maybe someone else is, Latin, and they want to create this really cool menu, I feel like that is where Laura and her team are so exceptional in being able to offer and navigate to you. How can we creatively blend this? And to your point, Laura, like if it requires partnering with an exterior caterer to get that authentic cuisine executed properly, I think that's also just the commitment to excellence that the Four Seasons offers, is by allowing that to, even take place.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, we are here to at least meet, the guests, what their expectations are, if not, surpass them. And I actually remember a few years back, I don't know if you remember, we had a couple. It was a Jewish Hindu wedding.
Yes.
Both sides of the families were vegan, right? So there was right, an added element. And our chef really had a lot of fun, because he had to first collaborate with the Indian caterer to say, okay, what are we going to offer, on the Indian side, and see what are we going to offer on the non-Indian food side. And it has all to be vegan. And the couple they were really impressed. They had a great time. The guests had a great time, with all of the offerings that we were able to bring together from both cultures, if you will, to make their vision come to life.
Oh, it was a fabulous wedding. I mean, the fact that you did a multicultural wedding, and then on top of that, you threw the vegan element at it. It was definitely, I think, probably a fun challenge for this chef, I'm sure. But it was executed so beautifully. And I know that couple had a great time, because I remember seeing them on the dance floor. I think it was like 1:00 in the morning, and it was like,
But we ended up putting one of their dishes on our menus. Because the chef had such great time, creating it, and said, you know what? This is something that we need to have available. And many other couples have selected it since then. Yeah,
definitely. And I think it just goes back to, again, supporting the clients, and the value of going to a luxury resort like the Four Seasons is you have a whole team that's here to make it happen. So if you have very ambitious dreams, that's all good. I think as long as it's within alignment of the reality of what can happen at that property, you've got a lot of professionals that are going to support you making that dream happen and make it reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, it's funny when you say, well, as long as it's in the realm of, what is reasonable. Right. Reasonable is a relative term. I'm sure you've heard me say this when we tour with, with clients, and I get that question a lot from the families. Oh, but are we allowed to do this? Do you think we can consider that? I have a motto, which I share with all of my team members, and with, clients very often. Say, listen, if it is legal and moral, right? Those two kind of go together. Mm-hmm. And there is a budget, there's very little that we can't do. So, when I start to get the question, do you think we can do this? We can do that. Said, let's go wild. Let's shoot for the stars, right? Mm-hmm. And then see, typically it comes down to, from a resources standpoint, what is realistic? Yeah. What, how far do you want your commitment to be in order to make that happen? And I feel like this is really where we shine, when we're able to really tap into the craftsmanship of our team to make things happen that nobody has ever done before. That's a really, really fun part of what we do.
I love that. And Laura, I definitely have heard you say that, and I think it's brilliant. So I'll steal that from you.
It's simple, it's a simple concept.
So Laura, can you share with us maybe some tips or insight of how couples can expect to maybe personalize their events working with you and your team at the Four Seasons?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say dream big, don't hold back, shoot for the stars. Tell us what you're looking for. I feel that no idea is ever too crazy, because that kind of gives us a framework of, what you have in mind. And then, through collaboration, there's, other ideas that, that typically come into play, and we start to formulate an idea, and then we go from the idea to collaborating with, being our culinary team, coming up with, some solutions, and then, okay, how are we going to execute that? And going back to the couple. So what do you think of this? Let's modify that. Yeah. And sometimes we end up in a very different place than where we started, but it's always, I always tell couples there is no right or wrong way, to start when you're thinking about your menu. For example, what's important to you, right? And then this is the perfect place to start. I had a bride last year. She's an attorney and he's a doctor, and they really wanted to have a nod to the fact that she is an attorney. So the first thing that came to mind, we have to have a gavel, at some point during the celebration. So we started talking about this, like, okay, well, what if we had, this, Parmesan dome that the guests would cut with, would like tap on. It's kind of a fun thing to do for the salad course. And then they discover the, salad or appetizer that's underneath. So we played with that idea a little bit. We had a taste. Like, okay, yeah, this is nice, but not really what we're looking for. So there's another idea that came about, creating a sort of frame, if you will, made out of chocolate with a sugar paper on top for the dessert course. Mm-hmm. And guests would know, okay, what is this? We don't know is there something inside, with a gavel. And then that would kind of give them an indication. Oh, I should tap this and, open up and see what happens. So we did this and we realized, okay, execution wise, this is not what we're looking for. So we actually used the idea of the chocolate frame and a box and made it a welcome amenity for the guests. And then the gavel, we went into a completely different direction in the end. So, and it just started with, I'm an attorney, I want there to be something about this. So it's always fun to see how ideas evolve throughout the planning process, and just to collaborate, and see, okay, this is where, we started, this is where we ended. And then just the whole fun process in between.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I feel like also the fact that you took the time with your culinary team to like actually execute the idea and then play around with it. Like, oh, maybe this is going to cause a mess, or maybe we should redo it this way. I think the fact that it's one thing to have the creative idea and then another thing to make sure that it is going to be executed with luxury and, that's going to translate well. So I love that you go through that detail.
Yeah. And it's fun for the couple as well, right? Because they see, this thing that we're serving, you don't even know how many iterations of that, or, how this idea came about. And that's part of the fun for them as well.
Absolutely it is. And I think that's, one of the things that's so important to keep in mind is just to enjoy the process as you're going about it, and just to keep that at the forefront always. One thing I was going to say, I just came to mind was a memory also of just personalizing an event. We had a couple, and I want to say it was almost one of the first events that I worked after the property had opened, but I had a couple who really wanted to have Mickey at their reception. Mickey and Minnie. And because we're obviously, Four Seasons is located on Disney property, we were able to make that happen, which was a really fun thing. But it was like so interesting, the Mickey handling situation. But it was such a fun element for guests.
Yeah. Yeah, Mickey has moves. You put Mickey on the dance floor. It's funny because even for those guests who are not Disney files, like, oh no, that's really not for me. We see it on the corporate side as well, right? C-level executives. When Mickey enters the room, that's it. Yeah. It's every man and woman for themselves, right?
Oh my gosh.
This is for my grandchildren. This is like, it just brings like that, that child in us. And it's really fun to see that.
Absolutely. I think it is so fun. Mickey did a cameo, helped the couple cut the cake. And then we did the Mickey in the foyer to kind of, if you wanted to do a little meet and greet, just to kind of keep it about the couple and have him, show up as a cameo. But there was a line to get a picture with Mickey. They were like, we
always.
And I thought that was so fun. That's something that you definitely can't do at any other property.
That's right.
One of the things I wanted to chat with you about, I was going to initially ask for you to give me an example of like some potential challenges you've handled, but I feel like what would be easier is I'm just going to share one that I ran into the property that was handled beautifully. And I think, Laura, I've already shared this with you, but I was just so, as someone also as a hospitality professional, I was just so impressed by the team that I'm like, I have to share this. If I'm talking to Laura on this podcast, I got to talk about it. But we had a wedding, I don't know, a few years back. I can never keep track anymore. Time flies. And, just as that second ceremony was concluding, we had a very out of nowhere sort of little storm that came through as guests were transitioning from the ceremony into cocktails. And, all of a sudden, everything at the outdoor reception that had been beautifully set up is obviously wet from the rainstorm that decided to come in and then, of course, depart, and beautiful skies after that. So the team, within like a 60-minute window, so I know that's 1 hour, but 60 minutes, they were able to reboot the entire outdoor reception, move that into the beautiful downstairs ballroom. And without a hitch, when the cocktail reception was over, instead of moving the guests outdoors onto the lawn, we moved them indoors to this ballroom. And I'm telling you, and I stand behind this, I don't think that would happen at any other property. That is, to me, hands down, the value of what you get from working with just experienced and truly seasoned veterans in the hospitality industry that are going to be able to pull something like that off. I don't know that would actually happen anywhere else. That was fabulous.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So happy.
Yeah, it's and the guests, don't even realize, what's happening. It's funny, right? Because in our world, we plan everything to the last detail. And why do we do this? We do this because we know that the unexpected is going to happen. We know it. That's just the nature, right? The nature of what we do. And in our case, it's always the weather. It's funny when you mentioned challenge. I'm like, of course it's about the weather. It's always about the weather. And this happens, time and time again, because when we try to put ourselves in the shoes of our couples, right? If you've envisioned a beautiful outdoor ceremony and the space outside is simply gorgeous, right? There's very little that you need to do to enhance it. And then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, okay, weather isn't looking so great. We're going to do everything we can to be able to continue to, to execute that vision. And you know what? Because we don't control the weather. I wish we did. But up until now, we don't. Then otherwise, we always have a plan. We have a plan that we execute only when absolutely necessary. But it is important to have a plan in place because, to your point, you only have a very short window to activate that plan, because otherwise you're going to have guests looking at you, and the momentum of the celebration can be disrupted, and that's just not what we want to do. So we we plan for the unforeseen.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was spectacular to witness it 100%. I mean, your team was just phenomenal in that moment. And I'm sure that there's many others that, sometimes we always say we have to go into the archives and like think about some of the events that happened, but it just was such a positive memory for me and for that client and for our team. Because when I think about value and why you would host your event at a luxury property, I mean, that just always resonates as an example for me, for sure. So,
I'm glad it was a great experience, for you. There'll be many others, unfortunately, because we are in Florida. Now, to, let the couple, no worries, we're going to make it happen. True. We always do.
That's very true.
Yeah.
I was curious, Lauren, and, as far as like industry trends, things that you're seeing just in maybe the luxury segment, is there anything in particular that's standing out for you right now? I know that people don't even use the word COVID anymore, but now that the pandemic is over, weddings are back, corporate business is back. Is there anything in particular that you're seeing as a trend?
There's a few things that I can think about, but it's interesting that you mentioned, COVID, because post-COVID, immediately after post-COVID, I think we saw a surge in people just wanting to connect and to get together. And then, a year later, I think there was a little bit of fatigue, right? Because your average, 25 to 35-year-old would have to go to 10, 12 celebrations throughout the year. Yeah. So, it was a lot. It was a lot. And then couples really wanted to make their celebration even more unique than they would have wanted, before, because they knew that their guests had, a lot of events to attend. And I think what we're seeing now, which is not only in the wedding business, is that desire to create a truly immersive experience, right? We want to give experiences. There's nothing new to this, but it's about really tapping into all of the senses, right? When guests walk into an event space, whether indoors or outdoors, what are the visuals? If it's an indoor space, what does it smell like? What does it make me feel like when I walk into the space? As they're walking through, are they touching the different fabrics, the tabletops? What does that feel like? Obviously, what they're drinking, what they're tasting, right? That's really, really important. And I think the one thing that has really gotten elevated to a level that I'd never seen before is the entertainment. Right? What am I hearing? What am I seeing? Yeah. Those vignettes that we see are so far beyond, right? The DJ or the band that's going to play, very soft music during dinner, and then it's going to kick it up, afterwards, and you're going to have the after party and all of that. Now you truly see those vignettes throughout, during a dinner reception. Throughout the courses, it's all about making sure that guests are constantly engaged, as there's always something fun, happening, something that they're going to be talking about, and obviously something that's going to be Instagrammable, right? That's the key to it all. Of course. Yeah, it's those truly immersive, experience. They're going to create really memories for the guests.
Absolutely. I had a client recently that used the word energy modulation. They said it's very important that we gauge our energy modulation throughout the timeline, which at first I was like, that's kind of an odd way to put that, but you're so right. It is about creating an experience from time of arrival to when they're transitioning into the ballroom to when they're sitting down for dinner. And it's not that you have to keep your guests constantly entertained, but having something that's another discussion point. Again, clients that we work with, like you mentioned, Laura, they're attending so many social functions in their own personal calendars. So it's always about kind of upping the ante in a different way, right? So I love that idea. I think that immersive entertainment is definitely something that we've been seeing as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. So, Laura, I've been so pleased that I've been able to chat with you about all things luxury events. Your insights have been really supportive to understand a little bit more about the luxury segment. Is there any advice or just any final remarks that you would give to anyone that's listening today in terms of planning their wedding or just, you don't know what you don't know, any type of advice or parting words?
Sure. I would say, first of all, have fun. Have fun. Remember what got you started in this journey. We see a lot of couples coming with, a lot of anxiety because they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know where to find the answers. So just remember that this needs to be fun, right? It's because you're in love that you want to do this. Find the right partners. Partners meaning your wedding planner they will become your best friend, right? They are our best friend because together in the background, we are going to orchestrate all of the logistics that we don't want to bother you with, right? So find a great planner. And when you go from there, based on what you share with your planner, they are going to, create and curate, right? All of the specialists that are going to be involved in the celebration. So trust them. I would say that's the last thing that I would say is trust the pros, that you have hired. They are here to help you. They have your best interest at heart always, right? They're here to make it really fun, for you. Communicate, over communicate, share everything that you love, things that you don't want to see, so that all those partners together can really bring, your vision to life.
Yeah, I love that, Laura. I think that's fabulous advice. And certainly I think trusting your vendors is such a pivotal part of the planning experience in general, because these are seasoned professionals that really do have your best interest at heart. And the wedding weekend comes, Laura's team's running around, Hannah's teams are running around, not crazy, but just checking in with their vendors, making sure, because it's a collaborative team effort, checking in with each other so that you as the couple can just be a guest that day and enjoy the experience and be present with your friends and family. So I love that, Laura. Thank you again so much for your time today. This has been so helpful, and I hope it's helpful for any of the couples that are tuning in.
Thank you so much, Brittany. This was fun.